learning and education. I'm your host, Shelby Denman, and today I have two of my friends here who are both face-to-face teachers this year, and they have also had some virtual experiences. So I have Brittany Hartley, who teaches third grade, and Stephanie Elliott, who teaches fourth grade. So to get started, why don't you guys just share with us, I want you to introduce yourself. Why did you go into education, and what experiences have you had?
So I'm Stephanie Elliott. I teach fourth grade, all subjects, and I wanted to become a teacher. I'm the first person in my family to graduate college. So growing up, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I had some very instrumental teachers in my childhood who helped shape kind of who I am today. They were very involved in my life, and I think I just wanted to be that person for another kid growing up. So that's why.
That's cool. And then what have you taught other than this year? What other experiences do you have?
So I've taught sixth grade math, and then I taught sixth grade math for 2 years, and then I taught fourth grade math and science for a couple of years. Sometimes it was just math. I've done that I did that 7 years, and this is my second year doing self-contained fourth grade. So,
okay, awesome. And Brittany?
I'm Brittany Hartley, and I teach third grade. This is my 14th year to teach. I've spent 10 years teaching first grade, and then this is my fourth in third grade. Actually, growing up, I used to play school all the time. But when I went to college, I didn't want to go into education. And I think some of it is I kind of bucked the horse. My mom kept pushing, oh, you should, go education. Well, I didn't listen at first. And then I ended up switching, and I love it. Like Stephanie, I had great teachers along the way too. And I like being that influence, hopefully, to many students today.
That's cool. When you went in first, what did you start to study?
I went in as a business major. I thought, I'm going to make all the money. I'm going to do all the things. And then after I got into some of the classes and I didn't get very good grades, I was like, yeah, this is not for me.
Instead of making all the money, I'll change all the lives.
Yes, pretty much.
It's a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. So why don't you guys describe a little bit about what you've been doing this year? So you've both had some unique experiences while teaching in a pandemic, like we all have. So what have you been doing this year, and what's that kind of been like?
So I started the year as a virtual teacher. When they asked us what we wanted to do, I was kind of one of those in that position of, it doesn't really matter to me. I didn't care either way. I wanted to help whichever they needed me to do. I'm pretty comfortable with technology, so I was like, I don't mind doing the virtual part of it. So I kind of got voluntold, or no, not really. They just asked if I minded, doing virtual, and I was like, no, that's fine. So started the year virtual, and then after the fall break, changed over to face-to-face because we had so many kids come back. So switched over from virtual to face-to-face. So that was quite a change, going from, I had 34 kids virtually to 18 kids in the class. So it's been a crazy year.
Were any of the kids that you had virtual kids that you have face-to-face?
So I was one of the lucky ones that I got to keep all of my virtual kids when they came back face-to-face. So I was very blessed in that I already had those relationships built with them. I feel like I already knew all of the kids. So when they came back, I didn't feel like it was new faces or anything. It was great to see them in person, but I felt like I already knew them. So it was kind of a different experience, a first day of school all over again with a bunch of kids I already knew. So
that's what I was going to ask. That's interesting to me, because I think if you've been teaching for any amount of time, you know what that first day of school is like. And so the first day of kids face-to-face that you already know virtually, what was that like? Was it what you expected or not expected?
So, the first day of school, you're always really nervous. Just, you want everything to go right. And am I going to forget something? And make sure everybody goes home the right way. All of those things, the first day of school things. And I think I was just so excited just to see them physically, in person and not on this little screen, that, just feel their energy, and not see them, jumping on the trampoline while we're trying to teach math or, all the random things they were doing. So it was just nice to feel that energy and feed off their energy being in the classroom. So I was more excited than I was nervous. So that was kind of a cool first day feeling of being excited versus nervous.
Do you feel like now, having had the same students in class and virtually, how can you gauge? Do you feel like you really knew what they knew virtually? Like, how did you know what they knew? And is one way easier to know their progress than the other?
Definitely. I mean, it was hard to tell more so what they've mastered and what they haven't mastered skill-wise. Virtually, that was really hard to do. I don't know if it was an age thing for them, but, you know, it's fourth grade. They hadn't been one-to-one Chromebook, so they were still learning how to even, you know, navigate a Chromebook and navigate Canvas. They weren't used to that. So it was really hard to tell if it was that they didn't know how to do the work or that they didn't know how to do the technology, you know, so that was kind of the hard part. But at the same time, I felt like I had a pretty good feeling of my kids who I knew they were going to need a little bit more small group instruction. I knew where their gaps were. And I really was afraid that when they came back face-to-face that I'd be starting all over again. And I feel like those kind of intuition things that I felt virtually when they came back face-to-face were spot on. That's so cool. It worked out well. So I don't know if it was just intuition kind of thing. It wasn't so much the physical work that they would turn in and do, because that was really hard in those first 9 weeks. Now, if I was still doing virtual now, where they've had some time to learn the technology, it might be different. But in those first 9 weeks, it was hard to tell. Is it just they don't know what they're doing on the computer
Yeah.
Or, you know, because their answers would be all over the place instead of like in the little box it was supposed to be. But, you know, so that was the hardest part, I think, gauging their mastery of things. So,
Brittany, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing this year.
Well, I started the year face-to-face. I did spend a couple of weeks at the end of the summer helping develop the third grade reading and writing virtual curriculum. So that was interesting to see kind of that start and then see how it's kind of played out almost, for the whole first semester. But when they gave us they asked us what we wanted to do, I chose face-to-face. I wasn't too fond of the virtual in the spring. It was just different.
Yeah.
So I chose face-to-face. So we started 6 feet apart with our masks. And it was interesting. I would say it was the most interesting start I've ever had. But the kids have been really resilient as far as picking things back up. One of our major concerns at the beginning of the year with them coming back is how much they had lost. And there were definitely losses, some not as much as we thought. And as we got more into the content and the curriculum, you could see the light bulb turn back on for some kids. Just having that consistency and being back in school really helped a lot of them. But it's been interesting, just trying to track their growth, figure out where the holes are. We really had to look a lot at our vertical alignment documents to see what are they missing, where are those holes so that we can fill them and try to push them as much as we can.
That's what I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask, what are some things, because I think we're all experiencing that. Anybody who's teaching right now is experiencing that there were losses last year from schools just shutting down unexpectedly. And what would you say are some of the things that have given you, however to word it, like the biggest bang for your buck in terms of being able to get kids not only just caught up, but to be able to exceed and master the third grade content that they have now? Are there any go-to things that you have found work really well?
We've just been doing a lot of small group. We really kind of targeted some of the skills we knew that they were lacking because of the spring. Coming from second grade, they spend a lot of time doing addition and subtraction with regrouping in the spring. Well, they missed a lot of that. And so we knew we needed to go back to some of those fundamentals of just adding and subtracting so that we could work our way up to where they needed to be for third grade so that we can move on to multiplication and division. So I'll say we've utilized a lot of small groups for both reading and math. I will say we've noticed more losses in math, and with talking with administrators and other teachers, it's easy for parents to say, go read a book. It's a little bit more difficult, to go practice math. You know what I mean? It's just harder as a parent to know what to do when it comes to math. So I feel like our math scores overall are a little lower than reading, just because it's easy for parents to tell kids to get a book.
Well, and I would think too that I know learning to read is very complex.
Yeah.
But it kind of builds on itself and it's cyclical. Like you're doing the same thing from kindergarten all the way to 6th grade, all the way to 12th grade. To read a book is the same skill set. And in math, those are isolated new skill sets. Like I can't know how to regroup unless I've been taught how to regroup.
Right.
I've been taught how to regroup and I still have problems with it.
Well, when they're missing some of those foundational skills, then it's hard to move on to multiplication and division and some of the other things that our 3rd grade teaches. So we've really had to focus in a lot of extra time, stations and things like that on some of those skills that they should have gotten in 2nd grade.
That's good. Good. So what has been the hardest thing about teaching in 2020 and what has been the best?
Well, I mean, kind of just feeding off what we were just talking about, the hardest part honestly has been, finding the gaps and filling the gaps and finding the time, because we still have, current content that we have to teach. And so the hardest part is finding the time to do those fundamental things first, because I can't teach them how to divide and, do things, in 4th grade if they don't have those 3rd grade skills down, or they've got to be taught those 3rd grade skills that they lost after spring break. So I think that's probably is finding the time and the resources just to be able to fill those gaps. Because as a 4th grade teacher, I don't have a lot of, 3rd grade, so it's reaching out and trying to find resources and things to use to fill those gaps. So that's probably the hardest part for me, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And then what's the best part?
The best part, honestly, is seeing the resilience in the kids. Like, it's crazy to think. I mean, I have, 5 kids at home. We have, they're not all home. I have some, and then my husband has some. So together we have 5. And so just knowing that we were all at home all the time, cooped up, and these kids were the same. And then, you just think when they come back, like, they're just going to be out of control. I mean, and they've just adapted so well to this environment and having to wear, seeing them having to wear the mask and do all the, these things to keep everybody safe, during this time. I thought, oh gosh, coming back from virtual, I didn't really have to worry about that. And then face to face, I was like, okay, this is going to be a whole new routine for me in the middle of the year. But they've done so awesome. Like, I'm like, who are these? They're like 9-year-old awesome people.
It's so cool because, I didn't mean to cut you off. You can go.
No, I'm just the resilience of, they're awesome. They've made it so easy. So.
That's cool. I was going to say, like, to me, that speaks to, I've thought about this a lot this year. It speaks to the importance of routines and procedures in your class, because, so I have a first grader and a 2nd grader, and my 2nd grader, my in-laws came over to eat dinner and they said, hey, can you go grab me a piece of bread off the counter? And when she got up, she went to put her mask on because she was out of her seat. And she said, oh, I keep forgetting not to put my mask on. And where I would think that would annoy you, she just kind of laughed, like it's just a normal thing for her, that this is how school is. This is what I do. I still get to learn and see my friends. And also, like, kids are that impressionable with our routines and consistency and procedures that when they learn something, they're able to do that behavior. Like, they can be successful even in a difficult situation. So, Brittany, what would you say? What's been the hardest and what's been the best?
I would agree that time has been the hardest too. You have to teach what they currently need to know, and finding the time to fill in the holes of what they don't know, I would say, has probably been the hardest.
Yeah.
I don't know. The best part is just being back with the kids. Like, it's all about the kids. It's normal. It creates normalcy to everyday life when you get back into your routines and your procedures, and just seeing their faces every day. It makes it all worth it.
Yeah. And I would think even being with other adults, I know when I was at home, my husband doesn't talk a lot. He's kind of silent. And then, so I talked to my kids for a long period, and we were the only ones. And so even just seeing other adults in person it's so good to be with other people. I feel like
it is. Good. We're a very social culture, so it's very hard to be isolated.
Yeah. Okay, so what is your best piece of advice that you would share with other educators? You're both quality teachers. What's your best thing that you want to share with other educators out there?
I would say you can't do it all. It's easy to get caught up in all the things that you want to do and all the things that you have to do. But at the end of the day, you're only human, and you can't do it all. You have to find a stopping point, and you have to say that's it for the day. I started out spending hours and hours and hours at school and at home and doing all the things, and you can get burned out pretty fast doing that. I would say it stopped when I got married and started having kids, because that takes precedent, at home. And so you can't do it all. You can be a great teacher, but you need to find what works for you, what makes you efficient and effective, and stick with those things.
That's good.
I would say, I know it sounds very probably cliche, but just remembering your why, because I feel like, this is, I don't know, 10, 11 years. Can't remember how many years. And it's like you said, it's easy to get burnout. And I think I still get excited to come to school every day because I know my why. And I live that every single day in my classroom with my kids. And, even when that one kid is driving you absolutely crazy, like you have to remember like why I'm here and why I do this. But I think it's very, it's easy to get bogged down with all the things to do and, the one kid that's driving you crazy, and then you get burnt out. And so then you start to take it, you get agitated and frustrated and you don't want to come to school and those kind of things. Like my kids, they joke around. They're like, you love coming to school every day? And I'm like, yes, I love coming to school every day. I love being here. So I think just remembering your why and, why did you choose to do this? Because it definitely wasn't for the money. So
wasn't a business major.
it was definitely not to get rich. But I love, just loving what you do and remembering why you love what you do. So
is it too personal to ask what your why is?
What my why is?
Uh-huh.
I mean, it kind of goes back to why I wanted to be a teacher. I had a pretty rough childhood growing up. So I had a lot of teachers that stepped up that were there for me whenever I didn't have the adult figures at home to be there for me. And so, I see that need sometimes, and I like being that person, because if I didn't have a teacher step up and be that person for me, there's no telling where I would be today. So my why is just, I want to be that teacher for a kid who may need an adult, cheerleader in their life, or somebody just to believe in them, whatever the case may be. So that's my why.
That's cool. Okay. And then last question, this is kind of our launch out. What encouragement do you want to share with other teachers? Like, I know that we are in the middle of December, and it is a hard part in the year. It's a hard part if you're a first year teacher. It's a hard part if you're a teacher in a pandemic. It's just hard all the way around. In the middle of the year, the news worn off, and there's still a whole semester left to go. So what kind of encouragement would you want to share with other educators who are right there in the middle of December with you?
I would say give yourself grace. I think this year we all feel like first year teachers. I know we have a first year teacher on our team, and she's like, is it always like this? It's like, no, it's not always like this. But I think it's giving yourself grace, giving your administration grace. This is all whole new territory, and no one knows what they're doing. And we're just trying to make the best of a bad situation. That's advice for myself too. I've had to give myself grace and let things go. There's certain things I can't control. There's lots of things we can't control, and just let it go and just do the best that you can.
Okay, what was the question again?
What encouragement do you want to share with other teachers?
Oh, okay. I would think, really just kind of prioritizing what's important. Not just this year, but this year, yes, but in every year. We all like to do, all the fun things and all the cool things, and but really prioritizing what's most important, what your kids really need right now, especially. And a lot of that is social, emotional, support and things like that. But, really getting to know your kids, because I feel like getting to know your kids, like they'll do anything for you if they feel like you believe in them and you love them and you care about them. So, just prioritizing things and getting to know your kids. So
that's good. Well, I appreciate both of you coming on today and talking to us. Thank you for giving of your time to share with us. And I appreciate all you guys who have tuned in and would like to have been watching with us.